And we're live.
I think I might leave and go to another team.
Why is that?
I'm just going off what LeBron said.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like, come on, man. Seriously, how many super teams do you want to deal with? Like, and get out anyway. That's neither here nor there. I just got to clown on him because that's an atrocity. Come on, how much more do you need? But good afternoon, good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Wherever you are, whatever time it is for you right now, just know that you are locked in on To The Point with
Skip.
and the King. You guys know what to do. Go down there. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, which is hopefully where you're watching us right now. And if not, you're bootlegging, you owe us money. Thank you guys for all your support so far. And thank you for supporting our fantastic guests, especially supporting our man right there, Charlie. Charlie, congratulations on reaching a milestone on your social media account. Can you let the people know where they can find you and also how you doing, man?
Thank you very much. I'm doing good. How are you?
Good, but can you tell the people where to find you?
Yeah, so you could find me at Twitter at CharlieBender19. Trying to grow my account, get my voice out there. Just hit 100 followers, so thank you to everyone who's given me a follow and who supported my ideas and opinions and thoughts. And yeah, excited for what comes next.
That's great to hear, man. That's great to hear. We're so proud of you over here from To The Point. Skip,
Thank you.
What up?
Oh, not much. Just enjoying watching the Raptors get manhandled by the Clippers the other night. That was a chore.
Yeah. So, guys, now I'm gonna ask you first, Charlie. Let's break it down for everybody out there in this universe of the World Wide Web. What do you think of Pascal Siakam this year? Because that's what y'all clicked on. So let's get into it. What do you think of him this year so far?
Well, I think if someone could win a Most Improved Player award twice, it would be him. He's taken his game to absolutely another level. He's shown he can be an offensive hub. His defense has improved. He's taken on this load on the Raptors that has really propelled him into stardom. And there's these, at the beginning of the season, he said he wants to be a top 5 player in the league. And there was lots of debate going on whether he should be, whether he shouldn't be. How good is he? How good isn't he? Can he carry a team to a championship? And this year he really is silencing all those haters and doubters. He's proving what he can do. He keeps improving, and he really is putting himself into that superstar conversation.
Yeah, but is he a closer? Sorry, Skip. I'm going off script. Is he a closer?
He is. He had 52 points in the Garden. He sealed the game for the Raptors. We're obviously going to bring that up at some point, but he is a closer. He's a finisher. He's a superstar.
Okay, now, as you said that, superstar. Now, Skip, is he an all-star starter based on what he's accomplished this year so far?
Well, short answer, no. But let me explain why. So we talked about he wants to be top 5 in the league before the season, right? So in theory, you think top 5 players in the league are all going to be starting the All-Star game. Now, if you switch over to the conferences, because even with the draft and everything, we got to do the conferences for the voting. To be an All-Star starter, in theory, you'd have to be top 5 in the East. Now, I think there is an argument that he's top 5 in the East. The problem is the top 4 players are all front court players. You got Kevin Durant, you got Giannis, you got Embiid, and you got Jason Tatum. Those guys all qualify as front court players. So we're already, you're going down the list of the voting, right? You already have to leave one of those 4 guys off your ballot because none of them, as far as I can tell, I tried to vote today. As far as I can tell, none of them qualify as guards. Tatum probably should, but that's another conversation for another day. So if you're already leaving one of those guys off, and then you get down to Pascal, who's kind of just right behind that tier, maybe a little bit lower, but like sort of a lower level than that tier, it's going to be really hard for him to crack the starting 5. Now, if you want to say, look at the guards, So I just named four forward / center guys that I think are locks for the All-Star team. If you want to look at guards, maybe you could if Pascal qualified as a guard, you could say, well, I would make him the fifth starter with those four. But the reality is, two of those players are going to have to be reserves, and we're going to have to see a couple other guys fill out the guard spots. So no, I don't think he's going to start. I do think he's going to come off the bench. I think he's going to make the All-Star team. I think he's had a spectacular year. Unfortunately, he's doing it for a under 500 team right now, so that might affect his candidacy a little bit. But I definitely think he's in the conversation to be on the All-Star team, but I don't think there's a chance in hell that he's going to start over any of those guys.
May I weigh in?
Get off, King.
Okay, so Pascal has been having a great season, and honestly, I would like to see him be an All-Star starter, but let me tell you why he's not going to be. Can I tell you this? Because Skip, you just said no. Short answer, no. So, basically, what it is I honestly, we've spoken about this to nauseum, the American media as to how they treat certain players, right? Like we already know they don't like the international players, especially considering Luka is going to win MVP this year. I called it beginning of the season, but and they didn't give the Raptors any credit when the Raptors won the championship. They said Golden State lost.
Okay, Brian, I'm going to interrupt you. Which of those four players is Pascal Siakam better than them? Because all four of those guys are top 6 in MVP odds right now.
Okay, well, I would say better than Embiid, but
but he's got to be better than 2. He's got to be better than 2 of them.
Okay, Embiid and I don't know. Well, Tatum's going to start. Skip, you're messing me up here.
It's a hard conversation, man. There's no room for Pascal. There just is not room. As much as I love him, there's no room.
But I do agree with you that he should be a reserve.
Yeah.
I do agree. He is having a great season. Like, he's 11th in the league in scoring. You know what I mean? He's up there in minutes. He's up there in all kinds of statistics, right? Some of them he's out of the top 20. But we all know that for the Toronto Raptors, he's basically the backbone right now, which is a role that he's been forced into. And I got to ask you guys, here's my thing. Like, even though he's having a great season, and even though he is the man, you could say the man of the team, right? Since now he's kind of like pushed Freddie out of that role to make them more effective. But in order for him to become an all-star, do you think that we here in Canada need to really, really, really push those votes to get him in there, despite what the American side is doing? Us up here above the 52nd parallel.
I don't think so. Obviously 50% of the fan vote is going towards starters, and then the reserves are determined by media and players and coaches themselves. But I don't think there's a need that as Canadian citizens to, vote for Pascal as a starter, because so many of his fellow players have been giving him such high praise. Coaches have been scheming for him when he's the center of attention for opposing defenses, and coaches are scheming around him. Clearly, they have him in mind. And when they come to vote for reserves, because I don't believe he's going to be a starter either, but when they come to vote for reserves, if he's been in their minds all season, there's no way that they're going to leave him off their ballots.
Wait, hold on a second. Sorry, I got to make a call. Sorry, guys.
All right.
Lithuania. Yes. Can I speak to our tourist? Art, can you bring up that graphic of what Pascal has accomplished this year? Okay, thank you. I love you too. Happy New Year, brother. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Now, sorry, guys. Now, can we get into the numbers of what Pascal has accomplished so far this season?
Sure.
Like, can we get into the nitty gritty? Like, he hasn't played. He's been out for a few games, so he's played 24 games, right? but
Yeah.
he started all, so we know he's the guy. You know, he look at his points per game. He's at 26.6. He's almost averaging a triple double. Now,
Not
Skip,
quite.
is that not worthy of some sort of all-star performance?
Oh, for sure. He's averaging career highs, like you said, in every single category, pretty much across the board. He's averaging career high in usage, 32%. He's basically having a career season for the most part. Now, I definitely think, like you said, like Charlie said, you don't need to worry about voting him in as a starter because he's going to get his accolades from the coaches. He's going to get his accolades from the other players. The problem is he's playing for a team that's 4 games under 500 right now. And that all-star conversation, as much as I think he's sort of, I have him in my sort of semi-lock category. Like, I think he's probably the 5th best front court player in the East. I think there's a lot of reasons for him to be on the team. But at a certain point, guys are going to be looking up and down rosters and be like, oh, maybe we need to get a Knick on here because the Knicks are above 500. Maybe we need to get a Pacer on here because the Pacers are like 500 or a little above, depending how the next month goes. And then suddenly it gets a little bit tighter because I think, like, you look at Kyrie Irving. Like, I'm looking at a lot of all-star rosters don't have Kyrie Irving on them yet, and it's like, give it a month. Like, Kyrie's going to be in that conversation. He's been insane. The Nets have been insane since he came back. He's going to knock somebody off. So suddenly, like, that Pascal, you start to look at a guy who's on like a 10th place team, an 11th place team. In order to make an all-star team on 10th place, 11th place team, you have to have an amazing season. You have to be that kind of next level player. And Pascal is getting there in that conversation. And I think odds are he's going to make the team. But I think the best argument for him to make the team is for the team to play better. And not necessarily, like, I'm not expecting him to go on a 20-game win streak or anything and take the 1 seed, but get back in the play-in at least. Get back in the conversation. Get back above 500. And then people will be like, of course, we'll take Pascal from the Raptors because he's their best player and he's put up gaudy numbers this year. But if the Raptors continue to kind of fall apart and it just is not working out around him, then it's just more likely that he'll get passed over or he'll end up having to settle for kind of an injury replacement role because other guys are going to get rewarded, like Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle. I already mentioned Kyrie. Tyrese Halliburton probably going to make the team anyway, but all these guys, like, there's only 12 spots in the East, so it gets crowded real fast if you're not a good team.
Charlie, do you think Pascal will get passed over?
I don't. Just to throw some names out there in the front court for the East, because it does still go by position. So there are limited amounts of spots for guards, for forwards. So just to throw some names out in the East, Julius Randle, who knows if he'll make it? Bam Adebayo, who knows if he'll make it? Jaylen Brown's listed as a guard, so Siakam doesn't need to compete with a spot for him. Chris Middleton's been out almost all season. He's played like 7 or 8 games, so he's not going to be an all-star conversation. So there's Nikola Vucevic, he's not going to be an all-star. So if you go down the list and look at the Eastern Conference teams and their forwards of who could compete with Pascal for a spot, there really isn't anyone. And like we already mentioned,
Butler is the guy.
There is Jimmy Butler, but both of them will make it because you need at least 2 forwards, right?
Probably both of them will make it. The only other guys that I'd be concerned about are the Cleveland guys. Maybe they get, but that was mostly just because the game was in Cleveland last year.
I'm not too concerned about the 2 Cleveland guys making it. I do think that Jarrett Allen made it last year. He did have a great season, and I'm not trying to underscore that, but I do believe, obviously, if there weren't so many injuries, he wouldn't have been an all-star, but he ended up getting chosen as an injury replacement, mainly because the game was in Cleveland. So I'm not too worried about the Cleveland guys, but if you go down the list, there really is no one to take that spot. Pascal and Jimmy will be the Eastern forward reserves. Along with
the make it of the 4.
Right. So like we mentioned, 3 out of the 4 are going to be starters, and one of those big guys is going to have to be a reserve. So that fills up 3 forward spots. But there's no one else really to compete, so I'm not too concerned.
Skip?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably right. I think if you're splitting it 6-6, I think it's pretty hard to have Pascal outside of those top 6 forward spots. I just think it's a little tenuous if we keep losing. There are some fringe candidates who can jump in conversation. And if you're on a team that's like 5-10 games under 500, the voters are just going to be more inclined to sort of look past you, look over you. But I think with his gaudy numbers, I think people know that he is the engine that makes the Raptors work. As long as, honestly, I'm not even saying they have to be good. I'm saying let's get at least back to 500. Let's get at least back into the 10th seed in the play-in tournament, and I think he'll make it pretty comfortably. They just can't continue to fall off this cliff and just if we get back into Tampa tank again, then I think it's more likely that he's going to get passed over.
You know what I think? Guys? I think honestly, what I think is, like I said, I think Pascal is deserving of this. And like you guys mentioned, basically the hierarchy of the forwards in the Eastern Conference, right, where he might get in there. I think he can, like Skip, you just said, if the Raptors can gain more wins, maybe not 20 and jump into the first seed, right? But if they can get back to that 500 level, I see it. But I also see, like, I'm watching the media all the time, and I do see the way the main media, the American media, has pushed other players, right, to get there, to be there, but they have not looked at what the Raptors have done. Like, honestly, Pascal has been a beast this year, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It might not have like translated into wins.
But let me say one thing. He said he's got his highest usage of his career, 32% usage right now, and the Raptors are 4 games under 500. So there's an argument that the Raptors are better when he's being used a little bit less, when other guys around him are being used more. Now, I mean, I think there's lots of reasons for that. I don't think it's all on Pascal. I don't think he's completely bogarting the offense, but you can sort of say
on the coaching staff.
That's a lot of that's on the coaching staff. A lot of that is on guys just struggling around him. I'm not putting that all on it, that entire monkey in his back. But it's easy to sort of sit there and look at gaudy numbers and say, oh, he's got his highest average points per game. That must mean, it's the Mike James thing, right? Like, yeah, score 30 points a night on a losing team. It's not as exciting as, scoring 22 points on a team that's winning. So I think there is just a little bit of a dichotomy there where, like, the numbers have to coalesce with winning a little bit. Otherwise, I don't want to say empty calories, but you just, in terms of getting super excited that it's his career year, yada, 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 eventually that has to also lead to wins.
I'm going to take a timeout right here, Skip. Woo! Go to WeDoLaundry.ca. Punch in the promo code to the point. They come to your door. Wash. Pick up your clothes. Wash. Fold. Bring it right back for you. Unscathed. Beautiful looking. I understand that winter is upon us, and a lot of people don't want to get out to their laundromat. A lot of people don't like. I know. I hate the cold as well, even though I'm born and raised here in the city of Toronto. But, like, I get it. It's a great service. You guys should go check it out. Remember, again, promo code to the point, 5% off.
I do just want to say, though, talking about his numbers a little bit, aside from the points and the rebounds, which he's been obviously new career highs, he's averaging a new career high in assists, and that's pretty impressive considering the Raptors' shooting woes this season. It seems like at times no one can buy a bucket. So it's been pretty impressive that he can put up a career high in assists with the Raptors' struggles, and also he's having a career high assist to turnover ratio, and his turnover ratio as a whole is the lowest it's ever been. And that's important because the Raptors a lot of times this year have had butterfingers. We've seen that a lot of games where passes just slip through the cracks of the fingers, go through the legs, this and that. And he's still able to make these passes with low turnovers and high assists. So that really speaks to the caliber of player that he is, that he's able to do all of this while also scoring the ball, while also rebounding the ball and carrying this massive load.
On a team that is the bottom of the league in assists and top of the league and tops the league in turnovers, in fewest turnovers, I should say.
Right.
So he's kind of the antithesis of the Raptors offense in that way. I guess what I'm kind of getting at is the idea that him taking these possessions is sort of taking opportunities away from other guys a little bit, because I mean, we've gotten into this before, but the problem with the Raptors is that they're a take turns offense. They're not a cohesive offense. Anyway, that's a side topic.
So I have one last question for you guys before we get out of here.
Yeah.
Okay. One last question. Pascal was a great second option when the Raptors won the championship behind Kawhi Leonard. He really flourished and did very well during that season. Now, is he ready to take that next step to be the man on the Raptors as opposed to being forced to be the man on the Raptors?
Well, I mean, the Raptors are 15-19, so he needs some help.
I do want to counter though. They, on paper, at least, obviously the on paper versus in reality thing is a whole other debate, but on paper the Raptors have a lot of good talent to surround him. They have shooting in Fred VanVleet and Gary Trent Jr. Could they use another shooter? Absolutely. When OG Anunoby gets in his rhythm, is he a shooter? Yes. So they have lots of things that fit around him. They have guys that maybe could develop into interior presences that could surround Siakam, like Koloko, or who knows what Achua is going to look like in 2-3 years. So they have pieces that could fit around him to make him that number one option. But as of right now, with the way everyone's underperforming, like Skip said, they're way under 500. It's not working. But that's just, in my opinion, maybe because of the season they're having. Maybe if everyone's playing a bit better, who knows? He could absolutely be a number one. It all depends on the time of year. I know that sounds crazy, but
well, and number one, number two is so dumb, right? Because the whole thing with that 2019 team was Pascal the second option, or was he the third option behind Lowry? Like, was he who was your fourth option? Who was your fifth option? Like, you had depth on that team. You had different guys who could do so many different things. So that team was 8-9 men deep, and on any given night, someone could have an off night, someone could have a big night. That's not the case with this team right now. This team has 4 players, and if one of them has a bad night, you're in trouble. Or if 2 of them have a bad night, you're in trouble. So I don't think it's fair to compare those two things. I think he needs a running mate, but he needs like 3 or 4 running mates. He needs a good team around him. Even Giannis can't do it by himself completely. So yeah, I think he can
he's missing Middleton.
He can be a guy. I don't know if he can be the guy, but he could be a guy. He could be pretty much the guy. But you know, Kawhi needs Paul George. Giannis needs Chris. Like, everyone needs somebody.
that's the thing. It's hard to put
And I
out
need
there.
you, Skip.
Oh,
It's hard to put out there right now whether Siakam can be that number one, just because we've never really seen him in this position to take total control of the team. Because 2 years ago, when he had the opportunity, he was hurt, and then which was the Tampa season, and then he started last year off with the coming back from shoulder surgery, and he got slow start. So we've never seen him in that position. So it's kind of hard to say, but there are glimpses of hope that maybe he could be one day.
I think one thing about that is right now he operates as 1A, 1B with Fred VanVleet more than anybody else in the team. And I don't think that's the recipe for success. I think you got to knock Fred down a few notches if you want to be a competitive team. And if they were able to, and if this hasn't really worked yet, for lots of reasons, youth, struggles, sophomore slump, the 1-2 would have to be Pascal and Scotty, based on this current roster construction, and having Fred be like that third, fourth, fifth guy on the depth chart. That's how this team would be successful. And as long as Pascal and Freddie are operating as the 1-2, this team's ceiling is limited.
Right. We know Fred is great off ball, and with Pascal and Fred running that pick and roll, which is their go-to play, it leaves Fred not a lot of opportunities to play off ball, like I said, which we know he's great at.
Don't slander Fred too much. My mom will
It's not so much slandering.
It's not so much slander.
It's
more
the coaching step. It's the role, right? When they run that pick and roll, they're both covered half the time. Like, your best shot is a contested 3. Like, that's not really going to get you anywhere, especially when Fred's shooting 30%. But
like, for example, if Scotty and Siakam were able to get into this role with a pick and roll, it gives Fred more opportunities to get off pin downs from OG or whoever that other player could be on the court, or to do curl arounds and all these little actions that he's so good at, and to really show his best self on the offensive end. So I agree that Pascal and Fred as a pick and roll duo, it is good, but it's not sustainable to lead an offense.
Well, it's like if you go back to the 2019 comparison, like Fred's comp there is like Danny Green, right? Danny Green wasn't involved in a whole lot of actions. He was there to space the floor.
Right.
So I mean, yes, if you have Pascal being Kawhi and Scotty being Pascal, and then you got Fred in the mix somewhere, it works. But as long as Fred's the number 2, this team can't get to that next level.
Oh, wow. Okay, we'll save that one for another day. Charlie, before we get out of here, well, first of all, can I just say, I honestly still think Pascal and Scotty can work together on the floor, and I think with the more work that Pascal has been putting in to himself and his game, he can be the number 1 guy for the Raptors. He might be he might be the guy, but it might not get him there. Might not get them there to that next level. But Charlie, before we get out of here, do you have anything you would like to say to the lovely ladies and gentlemen and all the people that are following you?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you guys so much. It's been a long time coming, and obviously everyone's been through so much over the last couple of years. So for me, it means a lot that you guys, like I said, are listening to my ideas and thoughts and opinions, are interacting, and I love talking to people. It's one of the things I love, and hearing everyone else's ideas. So please continue to do that, and I'm looking forward to what comes next. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you for being on the show. Skipper, what you got to say, my man? Because the new year is coming up.
I'm just gonna say, listen, I don't care if Pascal makes an All-Star team. I care if the team gets better. I think he should be an All-Star, but it's not gonna matter to me. I'd rather the team make the playoffs.
Yeah, I hope they make it back to 4th, because that's what I put my money on, and I might lose.
Yeah,
that's what it's looking like. Last year I was right at 5th, but this year, I don't know, man. I don't know. That Eastern Conference is stacked, like you guys were saying about some of the players ahead of him on the front court. They're doing very well, and they're making names for themselves. They're kicking ass and taking names later. So, guys, you can find us anywhere. I was on the Reese Report talking about football and my Minnesota Vikings. Skip and I will be on the Warwich Report, right, which will probably be yesterday as of this recording. You guys can find Charlie anywhere. You guys can find us on the Twitter feed of Raptors Live TV in the evenings after the games, right? So, what else do I got to do, guys? What else do I got to plug?
Just sign off. I think we're good.
Nothing to plug. So on behalf of myself, Charlie, my man out there, good luck in school, and my man, the Skipper, I'll see you soon. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night, and
peace.